So if philanthropy were to play a role in supporting the creation of this next level infrastructure that is community controlled, democratically governed, rooted and accountable to movements, like, what does that look like? What is required of philanthropy to make that kind of transformation in how they operate and how they move their resources?
The infrastructure that has to be built is really relying on such a mindset shift in philanthropy. And I think that's such a challenge, because then you're having to make the case for the technical assistance, the capacity building, the rest, the wellness of the people doing this work. And it's so exhausting to tell that story all the time, especially when you are a part of it. It's so interesting because some of it is just founded on so much money trauma in the philanthropic space of scarcity. Like, philanthropy is so rooted in scarcity. I mean, why else would 5% of an endowment only be used for grant making, and the other 95%, like, we've got to preserve so that for what? To stay important? Like, I feel like there's no question of why. And so there's this money trauma that exists there. Then there's the trauma of the people receiving grants. And so I want to talk to you about that, like how we're managing, exploring that as infrastructure, like wellness as infrastructure, as we support organizations and movements in this work.
I think there's some foundations that are now beginning to fund sabbaticals, for example. That's amazing, right? But it's a tiny fraction of the resources that are out there. Funding rest. Who's ever heard of a foundation writing a grant to fund rest, right? Or imagination. There's just so much unlearning that needs to be done when we're swimming in the waters of capitalism. We've all been swimming in these waters, and sometimes we don't even know that we are behaving and acting in ways that are within the confines, right, of the systems that we are swimming in. So I think within philanthropy, the expansion of imagination is needed. And I agree with you about the scarcity mindset that exists in our field. It's interesting also working with family foundations and individuals with wealth or individual board members for whom something that might be different from a staff member working in a foundation is that their identity is wrapped up in the wealth. Mm-hmm. And I have found the idea of, for example, spending out a foundation's resources or giving away that money in an abundant way for folks who come from wealth or are connected to the family members who have wealth, it feels like a loss in personal identity. Well, if that wealth, I don't have that wealth, what becomes of me, right? And those are conversations that also don't happen and are some of the blockages that are keeping the resources from flowing because it feels so threatening to an individual's identity to let go of resources, right? And so there's definitely some deeper level conversations that we need to have that just aren't taking place right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and for us on the side of working with partners, people that we're investing in, holding that the trauma and the experiences that people have with foundations is such a huge part of the work. And then there's like the trauma of money from existing as a person who has been marginalized in the world. And we're trying to fund that work, right? So I think one of the great things about being like an anchor from Tara is this really generous startup and opportunity for us to do it right, to include that in the way that we work with people. And when everyone's carrying this kind of money stuff, I mean, myself included, we show up into the room dehumanizing one another. Even if we have these values about collectivism and community care and all of these pieces, like that's the infrastructure we're trying to build. That's what it needs to be rooted in. And we still show up not seeing each other's humanity.
And that healing work and the work of building relationships of trust that are strong enough to deal with these kinds of situations and conversations and to talk about managing governing money together, that takes time, right? And so another way that I think philanthropy can shift its mindsets to meet the needs of communities is to fund longer term, This is work that is generational, right? Transformative social change does not happen in a 1 or 2 or 3 year grant cycle. It's a long-term commitment, and it's something that our communities are really committed to doing, our movements are committed to doing. My hope is that philanthropy can follow suit and really make that long-term investment that's needed.
Yeah.